Good afternoon to our viewers in Germany and good morning to our viewers in the United States. I'm Steve Sokol, the president of the American Council on Germany, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Kaffeepause, our regular check-in with a Berlin-based journalist to talk about the stories shaping the headlines. Today, we're joined by journalist Gordon Repinski. He currently serves as the deputy editor-in-chief at ThePioneer, a relatively new media startup in Berlin. Previously, he worked for Der Spiegel for 5 years, including stints in Washington, D.C. and Berlin. Gordon, herzlich willkommen. Welcome back to the Kaffeepause. It is great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I'm happy to be with you again. Hi.
So I know our time is limited today, but there are some really big stories coming out of Germany, and I thought we could start our conversation by talking about the results of the state election in Niedersachsen, in Lower Saxony. It looks as though the Social Democrats are poised to win the election, giving the party a bit of a boost at the federal level. The SPD did see a drop in percentage points between this year and 2017 from about 37 points to 33 points, but they are the clear winner. The Christian Democrats had their worst results in more than 60 years, going from almost 34% in 2017 to just 28% this year. Let's maybe start by talking about those two parties and then get into sort of what this whole election means, both for Lower Saxony, but also for federal politics in Germany.
Yeah, Stephen, I think Olaf Scholz, the chancellor, is immensely relieved about the result because Lower Saxony, as we know, is quite an important state, the second biggest one. For the Social Democrats, it's been like a very strong state, as well as in federal elections and also in the recent state elections. So it was a really important election for them. Also, you mentioned the drop in the polls for the Social Democrats on the federal levels that we all saw recently. So as I said, the chancellor is relieved that Stefan Weil got reelected as a prime minister. And on the other hand, Friedrich Merz really had to take a loss here. It's been a historically low result for the Christian Democrats in Lower Saxony. And now, as it looks, it's not only the Christian Democrats, but also the liberals. So this formal Lager, as we call it in Germany, like the potential coalition of these two parties lost in votes, whereas the Green Party won. And now we will see most likely a red and green coalition in Lower Saxony, which will be the first in a decade in like a bigger state. So this is quite a historical result in bumpy times on the national level, where the chancellor and his government have to decide on like really critical and difficult issues, and they are facing demonstrations against their politics. So this has been a good day for Olaf Scholz as well.
So how much of this victory by the Social Democrats is due to the minister president who you mentioned, Stefan Weil, and how much of it is due to Olaf Scholz and the standing of the Social Democrats? Because as we've talked about, the Social Democrats are maybe not polling as well on the national level as certainly Olaf Scholz would hope.
Well, I would say it's an 80% win for Stefan Weil on the state level. I don't think it's ever a 100% kind of thing, but it has been a quite independent election campaign of Stefan Weil, who has been the prime minister for almost a decade now. He is quite favorable seen among the voters in Lower Saxony. And also in his election campaign, he really stressed the fact that it's about the state and not about Olaf Scholz. Those two are quite powerful figures in the Social Democratic Party, but they never had been friends. So even when Olaf Scholz was the mayor of Hamburg in a neighboring state, they were, respecting each other, but never really became close friends. but they know how to cooperate. They have a style governing, quiet style, which refers to political successes and not to like colorful campaign, catchy slogans, big TV presence or something like this. And Stefan Weil had one really huge advantage that made him at the end win this election, which was that his main competitor, Bernd Altersmann of the Social Democrats, was also his coalition partner in Lower Saxony.
Of the Christian Democrats.
Of the Christian Democrats, exactly. They were in a coalition now. So he always, kind of remained kind of a shadow figure in this election campaign of the prime minister. And so at the end, Bernd Altersmann couldn't really answer the question why the voter would change and vote him instead of Weil. So this was at the end his success, cleverly, finalized. And also when we have a very quick look at the topics, Stefan Weil was like outspoken when it came to like Gaspreisbremse, so like limiting the gas prices or a gas price cap. He mentioned it very early in the campaign. So I think it was his success. It was a clean, mistake-free almost campaign.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned this already. The Greens did particularly well. They went from about 8.7% in 2017 to over 14% of the vote this year. What accounts for their popularity in the state of Niedersachsen? And as you said, it's now highly likely that the government in Lower Saxony will change from a grand coalition between the Social Democrats and the Christian Democrats to a coalition with a smaller margin, but of the Social Democrats together with the Greens.
Well, Lower Saxony had always been a battleground of the question whether we want to have nuclear power in Germany or not. Like dating back to the early 80s, most of the fights on the streets in favor or against this part of energy policy and fought in Lower Saxony. And so I think the Green Party was more convincing here on the state level, especially compared to the Liberal Party of Stefan Birkner, who didn't make it into the parliament again. And this was really a success that for some people was also a little bit surprising, because in the country on the federal level, you actually see a shift that, like, when the crisis becomes more and more, gets closer to the households, people start changing their opinions on nuclear energy. But the way the Liberals made the campaign in Lower Saxony wasn't particularly convincing towards the voters. Now, when we have a look at the Green Party, we have to say 14.5% in a historically strong state for the Green Party is way lower than where the Green Party is in polls on the national level now. So it is a success, yes. It is also a historical success, yes. But if you compare it to where the National Party stands, it's still a tiny bit lower. So, which also reflects why the Social Democrats got strong in this case, because at the end, when you belong to the group of like left-wing liberal, but like moderate left-wing liberal voters, you will decide between the Social Democrats and the Green Party, and also many decided in this case for Stefan Weil. But still, it's more than 50%. It's, as I said, the first red and green coalition in such a huge state since 10 years, and it's a success for both of them.
Mm-hmm. So we've talked a little bit about the Free Democrats and the fact that they did not make the 5% hurdle. Obviously, this is bad news for the Free Democrats in the state of Lower Saxony. But what's the impact at the federal level, and to what degree do you think that this does not bode well for Christian Lindner, the head of the Free Democrats?
Yeah, it's quite an issue for Christian Lindner as well, because I mean he's been struggling with the direction the Liberal Party should go on the federal level. I mean, you have the option to say, I want more liberal policies, and I want to fight harder within the coalition to get these put through. but that means it's going to be a little bit more bumpy on the federal level. You have more discussions, public discussions, and a bumpy government, a bumpy coalition would never favor the parts of the coalition. So also the Liberal Party will probably be not favored. Then the other way would be to say, okay, I want to go and make more compromises with the other party, but that, according to the analysis of the Liberal Party, is part of the problem, that they actually did not, sharpen their profile, and they were not so visible as a liberal part in this coalition. So all things considered, strategically, I think it's a very difficult situation for Christian Lindner, who is in a coalition that he never loved. He accepted it. He took it as something that needs to happen. He took it as something that doesn't really have an alternative. And also for him personally, when he entered the Ampel coalition, he didn't really have an option. 4 years before that, he refused to go into a Jamaica coalition. So, he was kind of a suspect when it comes to like not accepting coalitions that actually have to happen after the election. So now he's in this Ampel coalition, a little bit trapped, and has to find a way forward. I do respect how he does it. I think it's difficult times for them, and I do think that the approach to say we will try to work together more closely and try to focus on projects that benefits all the partners step by step will be the right way, rather than going into like big disputes and fights on the public level, because frankly this winter will be too tough to do that. And so I think the way that I described, I think, is the only way for him.
So, sticking with the federal level for just a moment, obviously Olaf Schultz has breathed a sigh of relief because of these election results in Lower Saxony. But do you think that the poor showing by the Free Democrats creates sort of a new challenge for Schultz to keep his traffic light coalition together at the federal level?
Yeah, it's exactly what I explained, because I mean, you hear voices among the Liberal Party, among the FDP, who say, I mean, now we have to be tougher on Scholz and on the policies, and we have to fight more with the Green Party, which are the main competitors within the coalition, if you will. And so, I mean, those voices like Wolfgang Kubicki, the old powerful guy of the North, deputy in the party, they get a little bit more traction, and so a little bit more critique on this or that green policy will probably come up and make the governing process for Olaf Scholz also more difficult.
We've not talked about the results of the Alternative for Germany, and that party, of course, also did quite well this time around, going from just over 6% of the vote to nearly 11% of the vote. And it's highly likely that the AfD took votes away from the Christian Democrats and from the Free Democrats. Are these gains by the AfD a warning signal?
Yeah, and actually, they took away votes from almost every party, not only of the two that you were mentioning. They took away another, I mean, the left-wing party never, like the socialist left-wing party, Linkspartei, never have been strong in Lower Saxony, but they fell again from like 4 point something to 2 point something. So this is another quite relevant share that they lost in some parts towards the right-wing nationalist party, but also even the Social Democrats lost towards the AfD. So it's almost from all parties losses towards the AfD, which is a result of an increasing notion among the population that they are getting a little unhappy about how government works facing this crisis now. I mean, we see it in Germany everywhere on the streets. Demonstrations are coming up. More and more people are entering the streets and are demonstrating against the results of the war that they see as a result. Excuse me, Okay. Do you see me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think that this was interrupted. I continue. So the AFD gains ground because people are hitting the street, and they are benefiting from that feeling that the government is not doing the right thing within this crisis. And I think this will be a critical thing this winter. Also, if we are having a look at the fact that the number of migrants coming into Europe, into Germany, is going up again quite significantly, and this is something which can make them gain even more ground than during this election campaign in Lower Saxony.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue of migration and refugees is one that we'll obviously be following over the course of the coming months to see what sort of an impact that has. But one of the other stories that I was sort of following over the weekend was there was I guess a sort of act of sabotage against Deutsche Bahn on Saturday when two very important communication cables were cut. One in Berlin and one hundreds of kilometers away in Western Germany. This led to a disruption for several hours. And it has to be raising concerns about critical infrastructure, particularly just weeks after what seemed to be explosions to the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. To what degree is there a debate going on right now about how to improve the protection of critical infrastructure in Germany?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we have to say we are always surprised if something like this happens in Germany. It feels like, we were not used to like being attacked in that way, and we're also not digitally on the latest cutting edge kind of level where we should be, and especially Deutsche Bahn has shown weaknesses in this area recently. And I don't want to make a joke out of it, but like it feels like they found the weakest spot to even again in Germany in that sense. What I think is surprising in this case is you mentioned the places where it happened. It was near Berlin, and then it was in the city of Herne, which is in West Germany. This is like 500 kilometers away from each other, and it's something that is not widely known, that you have to like cut these cables in these spots to actually effectively stop the traffic of the Deutsche Bahn in like entire of northern Germany. And so it's likely that somebody did it with a lot of knowledge that you might get by before hacking a system and getting some sensitive information. We do see a lot of efforts now to make these things more stable and more safe. Without, I wouldn't be able to tell you where this ends now, because the discussion just starts. We're also, that I think is important, not 100% sure that it is a Russian attack. It's possible. It's not unlikely. It would fit to what you mentioned with the Nord Stream 1 gas pipeline. Though we have to say there was a huge AfD nationalist demonstration in Berlin on the weekend. And it's not absolutely impossible that militant left-wing organizations did plan and execute this attack on the cables. I'm not saying it's likely, I'm just saying it's the second thing that is being investigated. And so we need to see what the result of this will be.
Obviously, authorities are still investigating this because it's a relatively fresh attack, but it was interesting to read that certain analysts said that this could easily have been a professional attack by a foreign state, and so of course it's really increasing awareness across the country. Gordon, I know that you do not have a lot of time left with us, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to talk a little bit about the debate over gas prices in Germany and sort of the discussion that's going on both at a national level, but also a European level. Over the weekend, the Gas Price Commission, right, the Gaspreiskommission, was meeting, and the results of those meetings just were released this morning. The government is reviewing the recommendations by this commission. Can you talk a little bit about sort of some of the recommendations that the Gas Price Commission has been making, and some of the sort of criticism that's already come up from some of the political parties about those recommendations? And then maybe we can talk about the European context and sort of Germany's Sonderweg, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the idea is that the first payment that will happen in December will be fully paid by the state. So the national federal level.
Gas bills, right?
Of the gas bills,
that everybody in Germany would have their December gas bill paid by the government.
Absolutely. And then when the next one is coming in spring, 80% of that payment will be at a fixed price. Whereas everything that is above that fixed price of 12 cents, I believe it is, everything that's above is being subsidized by the federal level. And then everything that is above the 80% will be the market price. So the result should be there is still an incentive to save gas, but what the federal level describes and considers to be, what everybody needs, that will be capped. So it's not going, into the sky. This, I think, is a fast solution, and it's also what the people of the commission mentioned. They said it's not perfect. It's also not perfectly fair. Because they were trying to do something really fast because the help needs also to come fast. And this is, again, a result of the political debate we had before, where some of the state prime ministers said, can't we just do something really fast? Do we need a commission that, works for weeks? And then we have a political debate coming after that. And then we have a result that's, it's going to take another weeks. So this is a fast result, which, when you mention critics, is not fully fair, because obviously those who are richer, who are having more expenses on gas, because maybe they live in a big house, they will get quite huge subsidies of the state as well. But it's also something bureaucratically quite complex, and maybe it's the right thing in this case to decide to help fast instead of fair in detail.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the other piece of this is not just the support to citizens, but also the support to businesses to try to make sure that the German economy does not sputter as a result of rising gas prices.
Yeah, which already started in a way. We hear from like a lot of middle class companies that they are facing troubles in this winter. So the result for the companies is slightly different, but a bit similar as well. Now it's not 80%, but 70%. So it's a little bit more incentive to save gas. And then the price they pay for the 70% is lower than compared to the private households. But at the end, it's a huge amount of money that the German government is shifting from the taxpayers to the individual households. Mm-hmm. And it's a stronger push and a stronger support than many other European countries can offer to their population.
So let's maybe take a step back and look at the European context of this, because there has also been a big debate in Europe about the gas price break, if you will, and the fact that the German Chancellor Olaf Schultz is talking about European solidarity in the face of the war in Ukraine, but is also taking measures to help Germany that might not necessarily help all of Europe. And this is leading to a bit of a debate on a European scale. How is Germany's response to gas prices being seen in other parts of Europe?
Quite critical, also because Germany is a bit of a suspect in two senses here. One is the whole Ukraine complex. Germany has been seen, especially from Eastern European partners, as being a little bit too weak on Russia, a little bit too hesitant when it came to like arms support, tanks they could deliver to Ukraine. So in this all conflict case, there was a lot of criticism towards Germany. And then on the European level, dating back to 2012, when we had the European financial crisis, Germany was always a suspect to, at the end when it's getting critical, they do what benefits themselves the most. So Olaf Scholz had to work against it actually from the beginning of his time as chancellor, but now coming with a proposal that is 200 billion euros and is reaching a level that none of the other partners could reach. He looked at as somebody who again wants to make politics in favor of his own population mostly. Also because Germany was against a gas price cap on the European level in the beginning, where you had these proposals of saying, why don't we all work together as European countries and define a price on which we are entering the market and on which we are able and willing to buy gas. There was a missing support in that level. At the same time, a huge national initiative. So it wasn't a good week on the European level for Olaf Scholz.
Mm-hmm. So Gordon, I know that you need to go, but let me fold in one viewer question that just came in. One of our viewers writes, taking from the taxpayer and giving to the households is an example of robbing Peter to pay Paul. How do Germans see this increasing dependence on centralized government bureaucracy to address challenges like gas pricing?
So, I think there are people who are very aware of the fact that it's the taxpayer is us, and if we benefit from the taxpayers' money, that's again our money. But then at the same time, especially in this gas price crisis, you have a fact, which is that it hits poor people harder than those who have a bit more money. So what we have to see in all measurements, maybe not in this particular that we have seen now by the Commission, but like in all the packages that we have seen before, social measures had been a big part of the debate here. So I think most of the people in Germany think it's right that we do invest money into the current crisis management, and that we do actually accept that we will have a little bit more or more debts on the state that we might be able to pay back later when this crisis is over. And frankly, I think it is the right way also when we see that the situation on the streets, the level of democracy is also being attacked, and it is attacked by Putin in this war. And of course, his idea is to destabilize also the Western democracies. And I think the only right way is to attack it back or to defend this by doing measures like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gordon, herzlichen Dank. It was great to speak with you today, and I hope we can have you back for another Kaffeepause in the not too distant future. But I hope you have good meetings this afternoon, and thank you for helping us start the week with your insights and analysis on some of the key stories coming from Germany right now.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Stephen, and I'm happy to be back soon.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.